That's what. Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah,
All
we
right,
should,
all right,
we'll
all
talk.
right. Okay. Good evening. I want to call the planning commission meeting for October 16, 2023. Do a roll call. Commissioner Borka,
Present.
Commissioner Nias,
Present.
Vice Chairman Nickerson.
Here.
We have a quorum of 4 members. One member is absent. According to the bylaws, we can't enact for the town. We vote for the adoption of the agenda. Commissioner Borka,
Approve.
Commissioner Nias,
Approve.
Vice Chairman Nickerson.
Approved.
The agenda is adopted 4-0. I approve. Approval of the minutes from the previous month of September. Quick vote there, Commissioner Borka.
I have edit.
What was your edit, sir?
The edit to the September meeting is that Robert Borka was present in September.
Okay. Commissioner Nias,
Approve.
Vice Chairman Nickerson,
Approved with that edit.
and I approve with the edit for Commissioner Borka as well. We'll get that to town staff so we can get that edit corrected for the record. I want to turn it over to town staff.
Point of order.
Point of order.
August minutes.
So August minutes.
We need both. We have we just approved September. We need to approve August.
Let's do it. Approval for August minutes. We did September just now.
Correct, sir.
Correct. Approval of August minutes. Quick vote. Commissioner Borka,
Abstain.
Commissioner Nias,
Approve.
Vice Chairman Nickerson,
Approved.
and I approve 3-0. The August minutes have been approved. I'm sorry for the introduction to the items on the agenda for turning over to town staff. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, during the September 5th, 2023 meeting, the town council voted to refer proposed amendments to the code of the town of Dumfries, chapter 70, article 1, section 70-22 relating to temporary uses, roadside food vendors to staff and the planning commission for review and to provide a recommendation regarding the proposed amendments. Within the code, generally, we have various types of uses included permitted uses per each zoning district, conditional uses which require approval of a conditional use permit, legal non-conforming uses, which are uses that existed prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance, and accessory uses, which are related to and subordinate to a principal use on the same lot. And then a fifth type is one that we're discussing tonight, temporary uses. So within the code, it states that a temporary use is a use established for a fixed period of time with the intent to discontinue such use upon the expiration of such time, and that does not involve the construction or alteration of any permanent structure. Also, the town council again requested information similar in other jurisdictions related to temporary uses. And within your packet, we provided a chart that compares language in the jurisdictions Manassas, Alexandria, and Fairfax County within your packet. The other jurisdictions generally establish a maximum of 4 hours of operation per day for temporary uses and food trucks, and exclusive of setup and breakdown. They also establish hours during which businesses may operate, generally between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. So within, let's see, can we bring up the presentation? It's item A. And if we can go to page 6. or slide 6. Okay, and so this shows one of the first proposed amendment, and it relates to parking time period and overnight parking. And the proposal is to strike overnight parking of the food vending units, and employee parking is prohibited. And within the other jurisdictions as provided in Manassas, except as permitted, a food truck may only operate for a maximum of 4 hours, exclusive of setup and breakdown between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., and the trucks and accessory structures shall be removed each day. In Alexandria, vending may take place between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., and a truck may not vend longer than 4 hours for continuous vending. In Fairfax County, food trucks may only operate for a maximum of 4 hours in any one day at any one location, including setup and breakdown as provided. Then with the next slide, signage. The proposed amendment is to remove signs from the section, and that section currently reads signs, trash receptacles, debris of any other indicia of the vending business are prohibited to remain overnight and shall be removed from the permitted site each day. And so the proposed amendment again is to remove signs so that they would be able to remain on the site overnight. And then in Manassas, no permanent signage shall be permitted, and all temporary signage shall conform with an article in their code and removed daily upon termination of the activity. And then in Alexandria, no signs shall be displayed except for a sign displaying a menu or signs that are imprinted on the exterior body of the licensed food truck. And Fairfax County does not have a clause related to signs. With regard to property owner approval, the proposed text change would permit or allow a signed lease or rental agreement to be provided in lieu of a written approval of the owner of the property. And in Manassas, written approval of the owner on the site shall be obtained, and this approval shall include the address, the owner's name, and additional detailed information about the owner. In Alexandria as well, vending shall take place at the following locations on private property if the food truck vendor is legally parked on the property and has received written permission from the property owner and displays such written permission upon request. With regard to restrooms, there is a proposal to strike no restrooms, and in the other jurisdictions, restrooms are not addressed. Also, the proposed amendment would strike vendors are limited to no more than 5 employees, and in the other jurisdictions, they don't address or limit the number of employees. Permanent structures, the proposed amendment would strike no permanent structures of any kind shall be allowed. And in Manassas, their code states that the trucks and all accessory structures shall be removed each day. Food trucks shall be prohibited from making an electrical connection to any pole or similar structure used for parking lot lighting or other utilities. And in Alexandria, farmers market, a building structure, or a place authorized by the city for use vendors to sell, offer for sale, or solicit orders for any products or craft sold, grown, raised, produced by them. This shall include outdoor food and crafts markets at as set forth in the zoning ordinance. Let's see. So within the current town code, there are generally 4 types of temporary uses. Roadside stands for the temporary retail sales of seasonal and holiday goods, excluding fireworks. And the time period for that is not to exceed 30 consecutive days. Also carnivals, circuses, craft fairs, religious activities not held on church property. And the period for those is not to exceed 14 days. For yard sales, no longer than 2 days. And then for temporary roadside vendors, the only stipulation is no more than 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and an annual permit may be provided. So next slide, with regard to issues, the proposed amendment regarding overnight parking is not consistent with the language in other jurisdictions and would essentially make the business not temporary. The second proposed amendment with regard to the signs being able to remain overnight is not consistent with language in other jurisdiction codes, and would also suggest some type of permanency. The proposed amendment with regard to a signed lease agreement or rental agreement in lieu of written approval of the property owner is also inconsistent with language in the other jurisdictions. And there may be a liability issue, as the property owner would have some liability for what's taking place on their property. And if they're not aware or have not given permission, then there may be some legal issues or concerns. With regard to the restroom policy, for uses that are not temporary, restrooms must meet requirements of town building and other codes and laws. If restrooms are permitted, they will need to meet the requirements of all applicable codes and laws. The proposed amendment with regard to vendors limited to no more than 5 employees. Certainly, if there are structures used for the business, those structures would have, including a truck, would have a maximum capacity, and that capacity would have to be observed. And the space on which the business is located, it may also have constraints with regard to capacity, and that would have to be observed as well. And then finally, the proposed amendment with regard to no permanent structures, of course, removing that would allow for permanent structures, and therefore the business would not be temporary, it would be essentially permanent. So after what the staff has reviewed the other local ordinances and its recommendation of and the acting town attorney also reviewed the recommendations. As indicated previously, the zoning code is established for the purpose of promoting health, safety, and general welfare of the public. The concerns of staff are that the proposed amendments do not ensure that the established objective will be met, nor do they ensure that the permitted temporary use is and meets the definition of temporary. Therefore, the proposed amendments are not recommended for approval by staff. I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Before we do questions, because I'm gonna have to open it up for,
Yes.
for public hearing, so I guess we can do all 3.
Okay.
And then we'll open it up and we'll do the questions from there.
Okay. So we can go to presentation of item 5B. Thank you. Okay, so on October 5th, 2023, the Town Council initiated zoning text amendments to Chapter 70 of the Town Code and directed both staff and the Planning Commission to review the ZTA and provide recommendations. The ZTA includes amendments to Chapter 70, Section 70-1 and 70-14. In 2022, the Town Council adopted an ordinance amending the Town Code regarding the definition and regulations for comprehensive sign plans as required per Section 70-535.15 of the zoning ordinance. The amendments established new regulations and processes for to provide the town with the basis for such sign regulations in a planned mixed-use development, or PMUD. The new regulations allow for flexibility for the existing sign ordinance, Planning Commission and Town Council review through the conditional use permit process, and streamlining of the sign permit approval process for large-scale developments. By following the same process, the conditional use permit process, Planning Commission and Town Council would hold public hearings, and citizens, council members, and commissioners would be able to provide input and have an open dialogue with the applicants regarding the number of signs, the types of signs, the size of the signs, the heights of the signs, the location of the signs, and the lighting of the signs. The applicant is also required to submit a statement justifying how each sign addresses the following. One, would assist motorists, bicyclists, and or pedestrians in finding a location without difficulty. Clearly identifying places of business or communities while avoiding unnecessary redundancy. Demonstrate capacity with and subordinate to the structures and land uses referenced by the sign. Address light pollution impacts and with dark sky friendly equipment and operations. Incorporate energy efficiency measures where possible. Provide a sufficient number of graphic messages or displays without creating competing demands for visual attention, and minimize impacts on historic properties if applicable to the site. The proposed code text amendment would add 11 to Section 70-14 signs in the B1 district. And those additions are included in your packet. And essentially applications for approval of a comprehensive sign would be in conformance with the conditional use permit application. And the fee shall be set in accordance with the town's fee schedule. Also, with B, an application for a comprehensive sign plan shall include the following materials: a statement of justification addressing whether and how each sign proposed by the comprehensive plan would address the issues that are listed, and approval of sign revisions to approved comprehensive sign plans may be requested and shall be limited to addition of a sign category and or individual use or user not addressed in the approved comprehensive sign plan, or revision to a sign category that was addressed in the approved comprehensive sign plan. Such revisions shall be reviewed for consistency with the approved comprehensive sign plan. Requests for revisions shall be submitted to the planning director or designee and shall be evaluated administratively by the standards set forth in the Section 74-14E11. And then finally, within the code section regarding electronic signs, it adds B1 with PMUD. Staff recommends that the Town Council and Planning Commission recommends adoption of the zoning text amendment.
Okay. No more?
And then the third and final public hearing relates to a conditional use permit. The town of Dumfries received a conditional use permit application from Dumfries Purchaser LLC for a conditional use permit to permit a convenience store with gasoline sales, off-premise wine and beer sales, food service, and electrical vehicle charging stations as accessory uses at 3600 Point Center Court. Per the code, a conditional use permit is required for the proposed uses. The code includes the following definition of a convenience store and establishment. Convenience store with or without gasoline sales, a retail establishment with less than 5,000 square feet in floor area, selling food products, beverages, and a limited selection of household items to customers who purchase only a few items, and possibly gasoline if pumps are provided. Does not include or offer any motor vehicle repair services. This slide illustrates the location. The parcel is 3.67 acres, bounded by Fraley Boulevard or Route 1, Possum Point Road, and Point Center Drive. Currently adjacent uses include industrial uses to the south and east, office use to the north, and commercial to the west. The parcel will be impacted by the Route 1 widening project, which will also impact current adjacent uses and the footprint of the parcel. The proposed location is parcel ID 8289-02-2144. And the property currently includes a two-story office building totaling 49,387 square feet, and it was constructed in 2004. The current structure would be demolished and replaced with structures and facilities for the proposed use. The zoning is B1, General Business District, and the comprehensive plan, future land use, designates the property as mixed use and open space. There are proposed conditions with the conditional use permit as included. One is related to site development. The property shall be developed in conformance with the conditional use permit plan entitled Conditional Use Permit for Wawa, prepared by Bowler Engineer, dated June 23, 2023, hereinafter the CUP plan, and subject to minor modifications in connection with the final site plan review and final engineering. Number two, use parameters, use limitation. The use approved with this conditional use permit shall be limited to convenience store with gasoline sales and off-premises wine and beer sales with food service and electric vehicle charging stations as accessory uses. The uses permitted with this conditional use permit do not limit or restrict the by right uses otherwise allowed on the property. Hours of operation would be 24 hours, 7 days a week. Additional use parameters include cessation of use. If the sale of motor vehicle fuel should cease for a period of more than 1 year, the applicant or any subsequent owner of the property shall notify the town of the cessation of the use and shall be required to submit a demolition plan to the building department for the removal of the following structures within 90 days of approval of the demolition plan. Underground storage tanks, fuel dispensers, pump islands, overhead canopy, air and water dispensers, signage related to motor vehicle fuel sales. In the event that the uses are discontinued and the site is vacant, the applicant shall stabilize the site using erosion control measures acceptable to Prince William County Division of Environmental Services. With regard to community design, architecture, the design of the building materials for the building, fuel station canopy, and trash enclosure shall conform to the following architectural elements. Wawa U59FB-L Route 1, prepared by HRA dated June 23rd, 2023, and Wawa Stacked 8 Fuel Canopy Trash Compound, prepared by HFA and dated June 23, 2023, collectively the elevations. The elevations may be subject to modification approved by the town in connection with site plan review. Additional changes to the design and materials may be made, provided that any such changes are approved by the planning director or its designee prior to the issuance of a building permit release letter. Conformance with the elevations shall be limited to the building design and materials and shall not create an obligation to provide the signage shown thereon. Landscaping shall be provided in conformance with the CUP plan. With regard to fire and rescue, emergency spill contingency notification, prior to final site plan approval, the applicant shall prepare and submit an emergency spill notification contingency plan and shall have the same approved by the Prince William County Fire Marshal and posted on the premises before the issuance of any occupancy permits. The applicant shall be responsible for notifying the Fire Marshal's office immediately in the event of a spill of any petroleum or chemical waste on the property. The applicant shall assume full responsibility for the costs incurred in the cleanup of such spills. Maintenance of the property, the applicant shall maintain the site and shall pick up trash, litter, and debris on a daily basis. All signage shall be in conformance with the zoning ordinance. And transportation, access to the site shall be provided as shown on the CUP plan. Potential right-of-way dedication, if requested by Prince William County Department of Transportation or the Virginia Department of Transportation, the applicant shall engage in negotiations regarding the dedication of right-of-way associated with the Route 1 Fraley Boulevard widening. The applicant shall also engage in related negotiations concerning any necessary temporary or permanent easements on the property associated with the Route 1 widening. Water and public sewer connection, the property shall connect to public water and public sewer. And staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit with the conditions as stated. We also have some additional slides that were provided by the applicant. And we also have a document that includes a traffic impact analysis. Can we bring up the application can we bring up the application document first? Okay. That was, I think, the page that we needed. Yes, okay, so we will make sure that the commission has copies of this document and the included traffic impact analysis, as well as the accompanying documents. And Mr. Noor, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, would you prefer to have the slides from the applicant now or later?
Lot to go over.
Yes.
Let's go back to the
Okay.
beginning.
Okay,
And talk through the chapter 70 proposed amendment.
Okay.
And I know you're here for the last one, so give us a second. We just need to talk through that real quick. I need to open it up for public hearing. It's open at 7:36 PM for public hearing. I'm going to start with, may have some questions for staff. I'm going to start with Commissioner Borka. You have any questions for staff as it relates to the temporary use for roadside vendors?
I do. So appreciate the presentation and the preparation. Very thorough. I understand staff does not recommend approval on this. The recommendations obviously came from elsewhere. It wasn't provided. You didn't put them together and then say you don't want to approve them. Is that correct? Somebody else made the recommendations and then
yes.
recommending and saying you don't want to.
Correct. Yes.
Is it because there's too many things in it or overall doesn't contribute to what the changes should be? So there's a whole bunch of little changes in there, right?
Yes.
Maybe some are good, some are bad. Are we throwing the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing?
Okay. Okay. So with regard to any formatting changes or corrections with regard to grammar or text, certainly those would be recommended for approval. With regard to the uses that are not in conformance or not consistent with the language in neighboring jurisdictions, as well as language that would suggest that the use is not temporary and permanent. Certainly those amendments would not be recommended, especially because this proposed amendment is to the code section regarding temporary uses. So staff believes that the code section on temporary uses should relate to temporary uses and not uses that are not. Does that answer your question?
Okay, it does. So there are some things that staff would recommend and some that they wouldn't, but it's all sort of together in this document. So we, as a commission, are evaluating it as a whole submission and not individual, like 20 different changes and voting on each change. We either have to accept the whole thing or don't accept the whole thing.
Well,
Is that correct?
Certainly as the planning commission, you could make a recommendation, whatever recommendation you would want to make to the town council. It could be in total or related to specific recommended or requested changes as the document is submitted. And, we could go through by each one or you could consider them as a whole.
Okay, my recommendation on it would be that if staff, depending on how this turns out, if it doesn't pass, that perhaps approach each one individually of some that would be approved or not approved, to allow us to recommend changes that make sense and should be supported rather than just saying yes or no to the whole thing. I think it puts us in a kind of an odd box here. Thank you for answering the questions.
Sure.
I yield.
Commissioner Nias, any questions, comments for staff related to the temporary use, chapter 7, roadside food vendors?
No,
No question.
no question.
Vice Chairman Nickerson. Questions, comments, sir?
Yeah, my comment's pretty simple, really. Temporary is temporary. Permanent's permanent. Permanent falls under different guidelines, different qualifications, different codes, different everything. And you can't call something permanent that's not permanent. So for that, I don't recommend that change. I don't agree with the overnight parking. If it is temporary, it should be temporary, just as any other business would be expected to do, whether it's vending or setting up for, holiday things, as I think you were saying earlier. I have no problem with the time frame. I know some of these other localities had like 4 hours. I'm cool with the time frame, but I think it should still remain a temporary use as stated. I feel like same thing with signage. If it's not a permanent structure, it doesn't need a permanent sign. I feel like if we change these things, we open ourselves up to a whole lot, that we may not want to see, because that could open up a whole new can of worms. And is we're talking about town and what we wanted to see, moving forward with our Main Street. I really wouldn't want this Pandora's box to add to a bunch of things we don't need. But I don't see a problem with it staying the way it is.
All right. No comments from me. The second proposed amendment for the signage, open it up for comments. Commissioner Borka, any comments, sir, for that one?
I don't have any comments on signage.
Okay. Commissioner Diaz, any comments for that
Mine
one?
is good. Yeah, the signage.
Vice Chairman Nickerson, any comments, sir?
No, I think I got all those out the first time you started talking.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask you a question regarding the first one
Mhm.
in our discussion of all in or not all in? Would it be appropriate for the commission to request a table that and ask the town to formulate it separately for the next meeting by section? We recommend this, we don't recommend this, we recommend, so that if it's an easy vote, we're voting yes, that's one thing. But this seems like a more challenging question on each of the sections.
We can make a motion for that when it comes time to vote.
Okay.
Staff, we will, okay with that. Okay, we'll make a motion for that.
Copy.
The last one, for the conditional use permit for the convenience store at 3600 Point Center Court. We have the developers want to do a. Sure. All right. If you would, sir, just state your name and for the record, and I just need you to affirm that your application is true as of October 16, 2023.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And thank you, Chairman. Brian Prater with Walsh Colucci, Lubelai and Walsh, for the record, here tonight on behalf of Dumfries Purchaser LLC, who's a affiliate entity of Audeo Partners, who is the applicant, and Michael Mears is with me tonight on from Audeo Partners. And yes, we can certify that the information in the application to date is true.
Thank you.
And then as Mr. Tabor mentioned, we are here tonight to discuss a conditional use permit. You see the logo there. It is for a Wawa. It is a convenience store with gasoline sales, as well as some of the other accessory uses. I think the applicant is happy to bring this forward to you all as partnering with Wawa to bring the town its first prototypical Wawa store that would have fuel pumps, EV charging stations, the convenience store that is typical associated with a gas station, but also the popular ready-made and made-to-order food options that Wawa has become very known for, their sandwiches, their soups, salads. They now even have pizza. So that is something that we think can be a great offer to the town and its residents in the future. As you can see on your screen, I believe you all are familiar with the location of the property at 3600 Point Center. It's right along Route 1, right where it goes, splits into Main Street and Fraley Boulevard. It's near the recently approved RS on Main site, as well as you have the Rose, which you are all familiar with. And then on the next slide, and this is just a little bit closer up of the aerial of the existing property. You can see there, it has the 2-story office building that staff had mentioned that's a little under 50,000 square feet. It has the associated parking, 2 access points along Possum Point, and then an access point along Canal Road towards the bottom of the screen there. And another thing, there is some green space on the property, but you can see it's relatively limited as far as landscaping goes. And as staff noted, the property is zone B1, so the proposed use does require a conditional use permit for the convenience store with gasoline sales. Also, it's a conditional use permit for off-premise wine and beer sales. As you know, many Wawas have wine and beer offered. And then the next slide, here's a street view of the existing office building. It's hard to see on this, but I know you all are familiar with its location. There are only 2 signs there. One is for Point Center, the name of the office building. The other is for Centera. Centera is the only tenant, has been the only tenant for the past several years, and that is about 12% of the square footage being occupied by Centera. This is just indicative of the lack of office market in and around the town of Dumfries, and it's really been difficult to generate some of that office interest, as you can see from it being a vacant building. And this property owner has marketed it for a broad array of potential commercial options, including their broker had it listed for at least 6 months and reached out to grocery store tenants as well as several restaurants. The main interest was for churches as well as some of these convenience stores with gasoline sales. So I think that this option of a convenience store gasoline sale really provides a good dining option for food, as well as has a market demand, also returns the property to an active use. The property owner has actually alerted the town as well as the police department. There has been some increase of homelessness activity on the property, likely due to the deactivation of it. It's largely a vacant site other than the Centera building or the Centera unit. We think repurposing this into a vibrant development would be something that would be an overall benefit to the town in this location, and certainly produce jobs and increase some revenue for the town in this location. If you can go to the next slide, it's a little hard to see from where you're sitting, but this is the conditional use permit plan. There are along the front, it is difficult to see, but there are 8 double-sided fuel pumps underneath the canopy. The building is there in the middle. The EV charging stations, there's a logo that is to the left of the building. And then you can see there's 10-foot landscape, 10-foot landscape strips proposed around the entirety of the property, which should help with the landscaping. Another thing is that the site is approximately as proposed, 41% green space. So should have a good amount of green space while still providing much in excess of the county's minimum parking requirements. And then the access points will be maintained as is. So you will have the 2 along Possum Point and then the 1 along Canal. The applicant, as Mr. Tabor had noted, is willing and agreeing to negotiate with Prince William County DOT, the town, and VDOT as necessary to provide the right-of-way and easements needed for the Route 1 widening project, which will include some of Canal Road. That's currently just an easement over top of the property. It's not actually right-of-way owned by the town or VDOT, so that'll be something that the applicant is giving up, as well as some of the frontage along Route 1. And then and then here are some of the elevations that were referenced in the conditions that staff had read. So you can see this is the current prototypical design of a Wawa store. You can see it has breaks in building and changes in different types of building materials and colors. It has some brick as well as some other metal materials proposed on there, and really think it's a good high quality architectural product with the changes in building height and fenestration, a lot of the design elements that architects are looking for to provide a hard or a high quality building. The top one, just for reference, is what would be facing Route 1. The middle is what would be facing away from Route 1, so the rear of the building. And then the two sides are what you see on the bottom. And then the next slide includes, just for your awareness, the other elevations that were referenced in the conditions that would have to be developed in conformance. You have the fuel canopy, which has the pitched roof, which is something that is a better aesthetic design than the flat roofs, or at least that is the general thought with that. Another thing you'll notice with both the fuel canopy and the trash enclosure is the brick is proposed along the columns of the fuel canopy and the base of the trash enclosure to tie the architectural of the development together. So you have brick on the building and it ties it all to have a cohesive architectural design. And that concludes my presentation. I think it's an exciting opportunity and a good redevelopment option for the town, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. For the questions, Commissioner Borka, any questions for the applicant?
So this is a very detailed submission. Appreciate it. I spent last several days reading every page, including all of the traffic reports. So we appreciate the thoroughness. It appears that the design is probably consistent with the common Wawa architecture, so that it stays with their branding. A couple different things. One of the things that as citizens we realize is there's 5 gas stations in Dumfries. I think Wawa is a great brand. They have good food. No, I don't have any negative to say or think about Wawa, so it's not about that at all. My concern is there's already 5 gas stations here, and the proposals to add another one. I do like the idea that there's food offered there because of the hopefully planned development next door here that hopefully we see someday will build. That those people we've discussed in the past, they'll need a place to walk to get something to eat. So that's cool. But my concern is the gas station. So has it been identified that there's enough throughput of traffic that is too much for the 5 gas stations to handle? So that leads to, are we going to shut down other people that have been business 2, 3, 4 right next to it? Right? Is it going to shut those people down because we bring in a large corporate gas station?
Understood. And I certainly can't sit here and predict the future. I wish I could. I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I had that ability. But I think Wawa has clearly identified a need for their type of business, which is, as you indicate, it's a dining option, convenience store, and it does provide fuel. So they've clearly identified a market interest here. I think really this applicant focusing on the restaurant option and ability with the Route 1 widening project, there will be pedestrian connectivity. This will have options for that new development should it come to fruition. The residential RS on Main, walking options to get here as a food option. I'm not sure there's too many food options in the immediate area that has delivery and dining, but understand your point of the amount of gas stations in the town today.
Okay, I do appreciate that. An area that is not being utilized, and we've had discussions, what can go there, something needs to go there. And I understand the same property owner owns both sites, right? So I understand the need and the challenge to find an appropriate tenant in the space, and empty buildings aren't good. And then Sunterra, who has occupied space there, has been leasing space, new space, on 234 on the other side of 95. So they're moving their operation anyway. So that building is, something has to be done with it. So we certainly recognize that, take that into account.
Mhm.
We appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
And I
really-
think one other observation I didn't make in my presentation is the applicant also worked with the town's retail consultant on trying to find opportunities. And the retail consultant was somewhat optimistic about the Wawa option because there was really not, as I indicated earlier, there was not really any interest from grocery stores or any order retail restaurant businesses.
Thank you. I yield.
Commissioner Niaz, any questions or comments for the applicant?
Commissioner Gorka already asked the question I
Sure,
want to
yeah.
ask. Yes.
Right.
I'm good. Thank you.
Vice Chair Nickerson, any questions or comments for the applicant, sir?
I'll say, just being honest, at first I wasn't for it. But, and thinking, about our development and growth and not wanting, obviously that property is owned, by the people that own it. And if we don't do something with it, who knows, it might sit for another, who knows how many years. So I'd rather see something productive done with it. I feel like it would be a good thing, especially with the residential developments that are coming. So we're going to have more people here anyway. I don't anticipate it running the other places per se out of business. And then with the change of the road, the way the roadways are going to be, I feel like they'll all probably get their share of customers. So I'm in support of it. I do have a question as far as the trash enclosures. So where are they going to be located on the property at? Am I missing?
That's fine. If you could go back a couple slides for me. So it's hard, I have it printed out. It might just be easier to show you is there a pointer that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll just go up and point it.
That's the old path.
So the trash enclosure is right here. So you're not looking at it from,
On the front.
from that one or possible point, really.
Thank you.
No question? I have a few. One thing that was mentioned in plan, but I didn't see on the actual slide there is charging stations. Is that something that's gonna?
Or in the left.
As well?
Yeah.
Were there five?
Yeah.
So there wasn't
In the
an
last.
identified number. This is the location that they envisioned.
First
You've
station.
probably been to Wawa stores that have them. It's a handful.
Right.
We didn't want to commit to a minimum or a limit, but this is the general location that's shown on the plan, which is conditioned as we go.
Okay.
To have an application, and this just for aware, that's a strip of 12 parking spaces, just to give you some context of what would be available there.
Okay.
I don't know that there's any charging stations presently in Dumfries. That was one of the highlights I noticed when I was reading
Right,
this.
that's-
Do you know of any?
No,
No,
I don't.
at home.
The Target /
Shoppers.
Shoppers.
Yeah,
Shoppers.
Shoppers, they have one.
Yeah, so within the
Right.
town, though.
Shoppers have one.
And I think they have the.
It's a significant consideration for the overall, when you're thinking of how many to put in,
Mhm.
they're the only ones. That's something to consider.
Factory.
I guess the only other question I had is timing as it relates to the Route 1 widening and roads opening. Is there a time that you guys are anticipating for the construction starting?
So I think Michael, I would ask him to answer that. He might know a little bit better on as far as the schedule.
Yeah, so to my understanding, the Rose is going to open up in the second quarter of 2024.
Mhm.
I think in the best case scenario, we would open up about by year end next year. That's a best case, but could more likely first quarter of 2025. And then the road construction, they haven't even finished with the takings yet, so I don't think that's gonna start construction till looks like 26,
Yeah.
something like that, 26, 27. Wawa is hoping to open before the road construction gets started, so that people develop their patterns before the construction.
And with the traffic study, it looks as if the easier access is going north, but they will have to actually, people will have to queue at that line at Possum Point going south. So is that?
Yes, I believe that is the case. If you,
That's correct, it's the same way that we do that.
Mhm.
So have you guys had discussions with the county as far as extending that queue area? Because as it stands right now, I think it's going to be like 4 or 5 cars that can legally, I guess, queue in that where that light is.
So, and I know the applicant's been talking with the county and their consultant, I think it's JM, but about the widening as well as the right of way that would be needed as part of the traffic impact study. It factored in the Route 1 improvements, and based on the conclusions of the traffic impact study, those improvements, including queuing lanes, whatever is proposed in the Route 1 widening is expected to mitigate those queuing concerns in that location that were identified in the future conditions with development.
Those were all my questions. Anything else to add?
No, we just,
The only thing I wanted to mention was, Wawa expects this will generate about 50 jobs, and typically they hire locally. And I would like to point out that, based upon typical Wawa sales, we would expect this to be a tax generating business in the town, apart from the roads.
Right.
Thank you.
thank you for your consideration this evening.
Closing the public hearing at 8:03.
Sorry, the other public people.
So we have a few items. First is, we want to make a motion for to defer the actual language to the town code to the November 13th meeting. So it gives us opportunity for have conversations with town staff to parse out the items that you may have issues with, as far as the language is concerned with that. Can we defer to the?
If I could, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, the item is actually on the town council agenda for tomorrow. And if at all possible, if there could be a recommendation, if you wanted to go through and identify, I mean, I could identify the proposed changes that we could potentially recommend for approval.
Okay.
And actually, there is maybe just one related to the employees, the number of employees. We wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that item.
Any issue with going through it now?
So the proposed changes are just the ones that are in red, correct?
Yes, sir.
VA.
So anything else is already existing code in
Yes,
place?
yes, sir. Mhm.
All right.
Mr. Borka, since you floated the idea, you want to go through it now, or you want to accept all as is?
I would rather go through it now, and we could make, I would submit to the chair that we could make an individual motion per slide.
Okay.
And get through it fairly expeditiously.
Okay. We'll give my notes. Is that okay with staff? If we
Oh, please. Oh, wonderful.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
one slides.
Overnight parking.
But I want to do a motion, we'll just do a quick vote to either we keep the language as is or we take it out. Does that work?
Yes.
All right. So for overnight parking, quick vote keep or discard? Commissioner Borka,
Keep.
Commissioner Diaz,
Mm. Keep.
Vice Chair Nicholson.
Keep.
I vote no, but it passes 3-1. So we'll keep the language as far as overnight parking in the.
Or.
We're keeping the current. That's what we're voting on, keeping it
We're keeping
as the
it-
language,
Keeping it current,
as it's currently
keeping the
written.
current language, yes.
Mhm.
I misspoke. I'm gonna change my vote. All right, be 4-0 to keep the language as it stands.
Right.
All right. The next one, as far as signs and trash, permanent signs. Keep the language, keep signs in. Or remove. Commissioner Borka,
To keep.
Commissioner Nancy,
Keep the song, keep.
Vice Chair Nicholson,
Keep.
and I vote to keep 4-0 for the signage, to keep that language as stands. The next one. For the sign lease agreement, you want to vote to keep that language in. Commissioner Borka,
Am I correct that this one does both? It keeps and removes?
Yes, yes, it does. It proposes to add one assigned lease or rental agreement or number two. Currently, it's only number two, if that makes sense. A written approval of the owner of the property. That is the current language.
so the
I vote to keep it as is,
Mhm.
as it's written.
written approval.
Yes,
Okay,
as is.
Commissioner Diaz, are y'all keep?
Yeah. Keep
Vice Chair
it.
Nicholson,
Keep.
and I vote to keep the language 4-0 there.
Need 2 votes on the next one.
Restrooms and number of employees. So as it stands right now, the language says no restroom shall be provided. And vendors are limited to 5 employees, correct?
That's correct.
So we want to vote to keep no restrooms. Commissioner Borka,
Keep the language as
keep the
is.
language, yes.
Keep the language.
Commissioner Niels,
Oh, keep this language too.
Vice Chair Niels.
Keep the language.
I vote yes, we keep the language. I was back and forth with restrooms, because I understand we do portable restrooms, but we've got language there, just keep consistent. And for limited to 5 employees, you want to keep that language. Commissioner Borka,
Vote to not keep the language.
Commissioner Niels,
Um. Think we wrote. Keep the language,
so you want to keep,
yeah.
Vice Chair?
Or not keep.
And I vote to not keep, we can strike that, so that is 3-1 to strike the number of employees there.
Those were the only changes. Is that correct?
Those are all the changes?
Yeah, and as I say, you got the
And I apologize. There is one additional on slide 10. That is the proposed permanent structures.
I was reading it. I was reading it off.
Which one?
Okay, last one.
Oh,
The
It's actually-
language that states right now, it says no permanent structures shall be allowed, correct?
Correct.
We're voting to keep that, that it says no permanent structure.
Vote to keep the language.
Vote to keep. Commissioner Diaz,
we'll keep the language.
Vice Chair Dixon,
Keep the language.
4-0, we vote to keep
Yeah.
the language of no permanent structure.
Great.
Oh, I see. That's-
Yeah, so that made it
All
easier.
right,
Mhm.
Right there.
so we don't have to visit that, but it's November 13th.
Great. Thank you so much.
The next one is to vote for the signage for the ZTA 23-004 proposed signage amendment. Commissioner Orca,
Approved.
Commissioner Nias,
Approved.
Vice Chairman Nicholson.
Approved.
I approve 4-0 for recommend to the town council to adopt that signage amendment. Lastly, vote for recommend to the town council for the conditional use permit 23-002. Want to make a motion to vote on that? Anyone?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All right.
Okay. Good.
Motion to, it has been seconded for approval. Commissioner Borka,
Approved.
Commissioner Nias,
Approved.
Vice Chair Nicholson.
Approved.
I disapprove, but it does pass 3-1. So it goes to the town council, recommend for the town council for the conditional use permit. Open forum, we have some announcements on the agenda as well.
Ready? The month of October was proclaimed as Community Planning Month
Mm,
and by the town council, and that is a national recognition as well.
wow.
And so we would like to present the commissioners with a copy of the
Thank you.
proclamation.
Thank you, sir.
And it's a thank you for your service to the town and the community planning efforts. You also have
Wow. Yes.
Uh-oh.
and a pen.
Yeah, we can write more. Study more.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, shoot, I need this.
Wow. Isn't that fancy?
And thank you to the town council and to the town manager.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I know we, point of purpose here, it was presented during the last town council. Take it for everyone, but I'm that guy that thinks of what to say after the moment is passed. I want to say thank you to everyone for
Oh,
doing this. So it can be I don't want to say thankless job, but we don't get acknowledged as much. So thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Or motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just had two more quick ones. Okay. So the town did approve an agreement of engagement with a consultant to help us with our comprehensive plan review and update. The consultant is RHI. And they actually worked with the county in updating Prince William County in updating their plan, as well as other jurisdictions in the Commonwealth, and had the superior proposal. We anticipate a kickoff meeting with the staff November 1st, and then following that, we will provide a schedule with regard to the remainder of the process for the review and update.
Sure.
And then finally, the chair had made me aware of a Dominion Possum Point project, and that's related to a project, I think, in Prince William County, Dominion coal, ash deposits, and a proposal to convert it to a park. And staff has been doing some investigating to get additional information and the status of that project. We've contacted Prince William County. Unfortunately, we haven't received additional information, but we will provide and share whatever information we get from them on that project. It's not within the town, but certainly it impacts us. And so we'll definitely try to stay on top of it.
All right, thank you. Only other thing I have is I know with the new town manager coming on board, let her get her feet wet, but then we still need to have the conversation as far as updating the bylaws for the planning commission as well. So in a couple of months. All right. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I motion.
Second,
Second, all right. Commissioner Borka,
Proof.
Commissioner Diaz,
approved.
Vice Chairman Nicholson.
Approved.
I approve 4-0. The Plan Commission meeting has been adjourned at 8:15.
Thank you.